This is Etsy, the go-to online marketplace for all things handmade and vintage. You can find everything from a Barack Obama scented candle to a vintage Fleetwood Mac concert t-shirt, a mini pineapple upside down cake to a Nantucket farmhouse coffee table with tapered legs. At any given moment, there are about 65 million items for sale on the site, and an astonishing 83% of the sellers are women.
The cha-ching came through my phone and I didn't know that it made that sound, so I jumped and then he jumped and then he started crying and then I started crying because I was happy.
If it's handmade or over 20 years old, there's a good chance you can find it on Etsy. But the company has gone through a massive evolution as it transitioned from a private business focused on diversity, inclusion, and empathy to a publicly traded behemoth with all of the pressures that come with quarterly earning reports. From its earliest days, Etsy implemented a gender-neutral bathroom policy, allowed employees to bring their pets to work, and encouraged workers to openly express their feelings in team meetings. Etsy's growth has been staggering. In 2005, it reported $1 million in gross merchandise sales. By 2019, that number grew to $5 billion. Here's how Etsy became one of the world's biggest marketplaces for all things handmade and vintage. This is Suddenly Obsessed.
I'm Rob Kalin, founder of Etsy, and Etsy is the world's most vibrant handmade marketplace where people are buying and selling directly from each other all around the world.
Etsy was founded in 2005 by a group of friends, Robert Kalin, Chris McGuire, and Chaim Shopik, out of Kalin's Brooklyn apartment. Kalin's vision for Etsy was to be more than a digital marketplace. It was going to, quote, reimagine commerce in ways that build a more fulfilling and lasting world. In fact, that was the company's motto under his leadership.
Etsy, from the get-go, had a very strong social component to their mission.
On June 20th, 2005, the first item was sold on Etsy, a flamingo print zip pouch for $8. Here's how Etsy works. Sellers can open a shop on Etsy for free, where they can post their handmade or vintage items. There are 3 basic selling fees: a listing fee of 20 cents, a 5% transaction fee of the sales price, and a 3% payment processing fee. At the end of its first year, Etsy had about 9,000 sellers and 22,000 buyers. But it started gaining mainstream attention when celebrities started talking openly about their love for the site. Investors came calling. Kalin was a bit of an eccentric CEO. He was known for making his own underwear and reading aloud from children's books. On the outside, his employees seemed to like his unique leadership style, but his management team grew tired of chasing his antics. Etsy reached a valuation of $300 million under Kalin, but his eccentricities started wearing thin. At the time, a senior analyst with Greencrest Capital Management told the Wall Street Journal, quote, "It needs to be professionally managed, and Rob is not the right guy." Kalin was replaced by Chief Technology Officer Chad Dickerson in 2011. Dickerson would carry on Kalin's inclusive values and traditions. But the pressures of the market proved too much for Etsy under Dickerson. In May 2017, the company laid off 80 employees and cut ties with Dickerson.
They really didn't cede much ground on the socially conscious focus until the stock started swooning, and then investors, realized the social responsibility stuff is all well and good, but your company is floundering and you're not realizing your potential.
Etsy brought in former eBay executive Josh Silverman to lead the company.
Our mission is keeping commerce human. When you might have bought something nice from a department store, but did they send you a handwritten note?
No.
Did they tell you why they made it the way they made it?
Silverman had a rough start at Etsy. Shortly after arriving, Etsy laid off another 140 employees and changed its motto to 3 words: keep commerce human. Etsy was growing up. Etsy's leading trend expert, Dana Isom Johnson, says the company prides itself on being a place where creators are free to experiment with products in ways traditional companies simply can't.
Our seller community is not tied down to traditional retail funnels of presidents and creative directors. They serve as their own creative firm and can create any and everything you can ever imagine.
Isom Johnson says flexibility is why so many global trends start on Etsy.
Whether you were looking for slime years ago, or if you were looking for unicorns after that, or even if you're looking for sloths, our Etsy sellers have the incredible creativity to create some of the most memorable and unique items you've ever seen.
Etsy's popularity lives and dies on the connections between its sellers and its buyers. Sellers are encouraged to share their personal stories, like Ruben Ruel, the owner of Domestic, a shop that sells Dutch cotton fabric with African prints.
I was working for a company, got fired, took my unemployment, and started my own clothing line. And Etsy was the easiest way to reach customers without having to go through the traditional channels of selling clothing.
Ruel says he's sold about 10,000 dresses since he opened his shop in 2012, and he's even had celebrities like Mindy Kaling and Beyonce wear his designs.
This is not something that's sitting in a store. These are actual people ordering it, wearing it, loving it, and living it.
Crystal Shaw says that she, her husband, and her 2 children were 2 weeks away from getting evicted from their home when she began selling on Etsy.
This was actually our second eviction notice that they gave us. We had 2 weeks before the cops were coming to the door, seriously being put out on the street. I knew about Etsy because I shopped on there a lot, and I knew it was basically the only place really online to get custom, handmade, one-of-a-kind kind of pieces. So when I came up with the romper idea, I knew that my store had to be on Etsy. And thank God it all worked out, and I got sales, and we didn't get kicked out of our apartment.
It's personal, and that is distinguished from everybody else in this world.
Etsy shoppers aren't only looking for handmade goods. They want to form relationships with the people who make them, and it's working.
Lots of people, particularly in this environment, want to support small businesses. They want to know that they are doing something good for the community, that they're just not enriching, big corporations.
As of July 2020, the company has 2.8 million sellers, 48 million buyers, and 65 million items for sale on the site. The company reported sales of $2.7 billion in the second quarter of 2020 alone. More impressively is how Etsy has gained market share in some of the most competitive segments in retail.
Home furnishings was yet again our biggest category. Etsy sellers sold more than $2 billion worth of home decor and home furnishings over the last 12 months, and that was up over 125% year over year in the second quarter. If you look at jewelry, Etsy sellers have sold about $1.2 billion of jewelry over the past 12 months, and that was up 50% year over year. If you look at apparel, Etsy sellers sold about $775 million of apparel in the last 12 months, and that was up almost 60% year over year. These are massive categories, and Etsy is growing faster than the market leader in each of them.
Experts say one reason for Etsy's dominance is its creation of a digital marketplace for handmade goods before any of its other competitors.
It's very hard to displace that first mover. So companies we associate with the actual product, like PayPal with payments, Kleenex with tissues, it's become the face of that type of category. So Etsy right away, gained that mind share.
But some of Etsy's most successful sellers say that the requirement that all items sold on the site have to be either handmade or at least 20 years old can stunt their growth.
We went through that phase where I was like, okay, we're going to expand. We hired people. We got a warehouse. We were doing about 250 pieces a week. It was insane, but I wasn't happy anymore.
While Crystal scaled back her ambition and brought her business back home, Ruben found a way to grow without stretching himself too thin.
I was literally sewing in my bedroom. I had a sewing machine and an IKEA desk that I used as a cutting table at the time. And then my friends were telling me, you cannot work day and night like this. You're going to run yourself ragged. So I went on Craigslist, and I found 2 seamstresses that could work with me.
In 2020, Etsy implemented an opt-out advertising service to help sellers reach more potential customers. Sellers are only charged if a sale is made.
Since I've been on Etsy, I've seen them grow in a way that is just remarkable for the seller. To see their marketing platform go from 0 to 100 in the past 8 years, they actually care about their sellers making money. And yes, you have to pay for services, but that comes with the price of being in business.
The pandemic highlighted the strength of Etsy sellers' ability to pivot. In the second quarter of 2020, it sold 29 million masks.
Because they're not making large batch, it's very easy for them to quickly adapt and pivot and serve the needs of customers.
Even non-mask sales were up 79% year over year, and Etsy's quarterly profit was up more than 400% from a year ago, and its stock is reaching record heights.
The American economy, it's a $7 trillion retail sales. Their market share in terms of that is 0.001. So it's, a 0.1%. Other than fresh produce, they pretty much address every other vertical in retail. So, the sky's the limit.
From its earliest days, Etsy billed itself as more than just a marketplace for handmade goods. It promoted a certain set of progressive ideals that came directly from its leadership and seeped into every aspect of its culture. To many of Etsy employees, buyers, and sellers, its true measure of success will be determined in how well it balances the demands of Wall Street while nurturing the culture that made it such a special place to begin with.